Hey there guys, TPangolin here. Today is when the Battle Royale Mark II really kicks into gear. I am joined by guest narrator Opera Fan 0301. If anyone is keen to do a guest narration, be sure to PM me on Reddit. To keep up with all the relevant hype and original content, check out the Megathread linked in the doobly-doo. Remember to join us over at Civ Battle Royale for artwork, civilized discussion and not so civilized trash talking. Let's begin. Thanks to Cylon L for this lovely map showing the state of the world as it was left at the end of the previous installment. Be sure to check out the full resolution of the image to get a full grasp of how our civilizations have settled beyond their initial capital city. We begin in the southernmost portion of Oceania, where the Maori are trying to decide which island to send their settler to. Bonus, Australia cities are more or less in accurate locations so far. Will their fresh settler keep up the pattern? The Inuit have founded their fourth city, settling Kanguiktinik, on a tile with, shockingly, no adjacent snow or tundra. Meanwhile, they have yet another settler on the move, perhaps looking to claim Nunavut. The Sioux are on a land-grabbing spree, having settled Yankton on turn 28 and Oglala on turn 29. Not only that, they have two more settlers ready to claim even more land. The Blackfoot may be in trouble if they can't keep up, or if they fail to launch an attack south before they're crushed between the Sioux and the Inuit. Mexico to the south settles their third city, Guadalajara, in the remote mountains of the Mexican homeland. Texas, too, seems eager to get in on the land rush, sending two settlers north. Additionally, it is worth noting that Texas military is pointed at Mexico City. Last installment, Canada forward settled the United States off-screen, with the city of Montreal pressing up against Washington. However, an American settler seems ready to cut off Canada's easy access to the south by settling a city between Lake Michigan and Lake Erie, forever dashing the hopes of a Canifus destiny repeat. Buccaneers look poised to settle the Panama Canal. This would be extremely advantageous for a naval-based civilization like the Bucks, as they could surround the Maya in a potential future war. In summation, R. Lamau. The Philippines have the new city of Cebu to the north, brushing the underside of the mainland. Vietnam and the Champa both have a settler at the ready. However, the Purple Pirates are in a better position to settle the fertile and unclaimed area between Vayaya, Mandalay, and Hanoi. Vietnam, meanwhile, can expand northwards in hope of escaping the cramped conditions of Indochina. Chaos. The Polish, Romans, Spartans, and Germans are all competing for land in Central Europe, as the Byzantines focus on the western shore of the Black Sea. Russia is sending a settler west, presumably to have a front row seat for the inevitable Great European Cluster Fuck. It's fuck, you censor! It's fuck! Cluster fuck! Meanwhile, in Northern Europe, things are marginally more calm. Sweden is preparing to settle their third city to try and gain an upper hand over Norway, and Finland has made the questionable decision to settle Tampere on the doorstep of the Russian bear. You know, when there's plenty of room towards his own uncontested north. Iceland continues to do their thing. If they can settle the entirety of Greenland, they could become a fairly solid turtle, or even challenge whoever comes out on top in the British Isles. Though they're certainly at least eyeing that empty Scottish land to the south. A glimpse of Northwest Africa. So far, all three major civs in this area are fairly solid. However, both Morocco and Mali are on their way to founding a third city, and Carthage doesn't even have their third settler out yet. If they can't keep up with the land rush, then Carthage may find that they won't have the muscle to challenge Rome later on. Bonus, the Ashanti continue their Workers Without Borders program. In the Middle East, the Ayyubids have founded Baalbek along the Nile. Their cities have some major growth potential later on, especially once they research civil service and get that sweet +1 food bonus on farms next to fresh water. This, combined with their Suez Canal, paints a large target on their back. Arabia has been fairly bland so far, and are on their way to a third city. Finally, the Mossad is watching. The Mossad is always watching. Sri Lanka continues in their quest to settle the mainland of the Indian subcontinent, sending one settler north. If they can establish a firm hold on the area, they'll be a regional power in no time. Or, at the very least, a turtle that nobody wants to mess with. The Mughals did extremely well in the last installment, shooting up the power rankings due to their high population, advanced tech, and good placement. There's still plenty of room for them to expand to the south. However, they still only have 2 cities, and Afghanistan looks poised to cut off any attempt of northward Mughal advance. Tibet is a very interesting civ, as the geography of their area makes it very hard for an invader to succeed. If they can grow beyond their mountain home, they could very well be a force to be reckoned with. On the other hand, if they end up locked inside the Himalayas, we can at least be sure that they would be the mother of all turtles, at least until artillery and airplanes start appearing. Yakutia, first place in the power rankings of the last installment, builds the Great Library. Ladies and gentlemen, we have our first war. France and Sparta have both declared war on Rome, creating the first of what will doubtlessly be many wars to be fought on European soil. Augustus may be vulnerable here, as he only has 3 warriors to defend against Napoleon, whose military is slightly larger than Rome's, and Leonidas, whose military is far larger. Rome will be relying on the natural defenses of the Alps to defend themselves on land, but they remain vulnerable from the sea. Texas found San Antonio to the north of Houston. This area as a whole is very fertile, and we're sure to see some gigantic cities later on. Long have the ancients told of a mystical land known as South America, where it is whispered that 4 civilizations thrive in secret. Only rarely has history glimpsed this exotic and mysterious land, but today its existence is confirmed, and this dark continent is brought into the light. Chile builds the Temple of Artemis, sending a settler over the Andes to forward settle Argentina's southern border. Eva, meanwhile, has very strong population growth, and she sends her own settler north to compete with Brazil. Leonidas and Attila both declare war on Russia, considering he's already at war with Rome. Has Leonidas bitten off more than he can chew? Carthage made a similar blunder in the last battle royale, declaring on France and Rome in the midst of war with Mali, and it led to French North Africa becoming a reality. Minsk, Russia, Nicaea, Byzantium, and Corinth, Sparta are all founded, as Sparta continues to move troops north. A look at the Hunnic Russian front, Attila's army is decently sized, featuring his unique horse archer. However, he may have difficulty pushing through the forested terrain. The Timurids have a bunch of settlers ready to go, now they just have to find a place to put them. Armenia settled Artashat in an effort to avoid being surrounded by Israel, and Israel is determined to explore the entire world with their army of scouts. Mexico completes Stonehenge, and a Texan settler goes east towards Florida. The Buccaneers are doing quite well for themselves, having built the Panama Canal in Nassau, and settled all 3 islands of Jamaica, Hispaniola, and Cuba in search for rum and booty. Now I see why the fanbase identifies with them so closely. Their challenge now will be expanding onto the mainland further. The Argentine settler keeps wandering, and Brazil sends out one of their own to claim more rainforest and sweet Brazilwood for themselves. Germany declares war on Sweden and seems ready to build a new city to the west. Norway intends to assert their dominance over the Swedes by building more Norwegian cities in Sweden's backyard. Things don't look good for Gustavus. Poland's 2 settlers, meanwhile, are all dressed up with nowhere to go. Our first real look at Central Africa so far this installment. By settling Bloemfontein and Petersburg in the face of a very territorial Congo, Paul Kruger appears to be taking a big risk. Will this hurt the Boer's chance of achieving Draka domination? The Mughals move further south towards Sri Lanka. They don't appear to have much of a military, which may prove problematic for them. They still have some legroom to the east, however, in which to expand. Vietnam is choosing to expand northwards towards Mao Zedong. If Mao goes to war with them, or vice versa, Hanoi may be left with few enough defenders for Champa or Burma to launch an ambush. Japan continues the gradual colonization of their home island, while an adventurous Korean settler heads north in search for glory and Lebensraum. Iceland sends a settler to Greenland, seeking dominion over the icy wastes of the north. The Inuit continue their slow crawl eastward, and a cold wind begins to blow throughout the land. Crowfoot and Lester Pearson have received white ravens, telling them of the oncoming winter. However, they are understandably confused, as winter is a relatively predictable seasonal occurrence. Also, it's August. The Inuit need to work on their intimidation skills. The founding of Sisseton is establishing the Sioux hold over the American Midwest. Additionally, their other settler is heading into the Nevada desert. Once the land rush has ended, they will control a geographically large empire, which will be advantageous if they can defend it. Here's a shocker: the Zulus were destroyed in the power rankings after it seemed inevitable that they would once again be nothing more than the footstool of the Boers. However, they've settled a chain of cities leading to the potential of further colonization up the African coast. If they can defend these against the possible Boer aggression, or even go on the attack themselves, we may see Shaka turn into the regional power he was born to be. Also, note that Hitler, wishing to show the world that there is no party like the Nazi Party, has joined the war against Rome. At last, Iceland has built a city in Greenland. Next stop, North America, a view of war-torn Europe. It seems to be a relatively bloodless stalemate so far, with Rome protected by her geography from the three aggressive neighbors trying to break in. Sparta's army is quite big, though Cumae is easily defensible. Now, if only the Spartans could figure out how to sail. In the middle of Ethiopia, Haile Selassie makes great strides and founds Oriental Orthodoxy in Addis Ababa. Malachi taunts Elizabeth with his pretty new pyramids. Jose Rizal continues to expand his island chain southward, while Burma, Champa and Vietnam still have a viable triangle of unclaimed territory in the middle of their empires. Tibet makes an odd forward settle, leaving the comfort of their mountain home to occupy the coast of the Indian Ocean. Away from easy defense by either geography or troops, this is close to both Burma and the Mughals, who will invade first. China has built a strong core for their empire, with 2 large cities, a number of surrounding colonies, and an imposing military. Korea has 2 undefended, weak cities just outside of China's empire. Furthermore, the Korean military is virtually non-existent. Mao may just want to pay Seoul a visit. TLDR, China wants Korean clay. Once Japan can embark, Sejong will also have to watch his back, as the Japanese seem to be eyeing the Korean peninsula with barely contained lust. Mongolia, initially expected to be a fierce warmonger, is turning out to be little more than a paper tiger so far, with only 3 cities to their name, low population and a fairly small army. If they can get into their game by attacking one of their neighbors, they may see their reputation recover yet. Morocco, on the other hand, seems to be exceeding expectations. They've settled 2 more cities, and while their military is small, they aren't under any immediate threat from Mali or Carthage. Like Mongolia, Carthage is supposedly a warmonger, but they've shown little aggression or drive. Mali continues to exist, with absolutely no drama. Finally, the Ashanti workers appear to have been lost in the desert. Perhaps they can find an Israeli scout to help them out. Those Israeli soldiers seem awfully interested in Dvin. A band of Kimberley settlers are heading off into the Red Waste to secure an outpost in the deserted region. Their bravery will be forever immortalized by their countrymen, and by at least 3 separate folk songs. The Hawaiians continue to settle their own island chain. White on Easter Island? Is this a prank by T-Pang, the trickster god? Chile and Argentina continue to grow their empires to the south. There still lies between them an unclaimed bit of land. The Inca and Brazil must now race to occupy the vacuum left by the departure of Gran Colombia, king of bugs. The Buccaneers may also want to get in on that vacancy. Speaking of the Buccaneers, it seems that the Mayans have taken a dislike to their nautical neighbors' nonsensical navigation to Nassau. They've built a formidable military, though they may have difficulty squeezing it into the Isthmus of Panama. Mexico has successfully created a large empire by sending its people to settle the southwestern US. Hashtag Trump for Prez 2016. By founding Toronto, Canada has effectively blocked any American attempts at northward expansion, and they currently have a settler en route to establish a secure western border. Hey, it's no Canada's destiny, but it does the job. The Inuit continue in expanding their snowy domain. It seems inevitable that war on this continent will break out soon. Peace has resigned for too long, and land is going to become scarce in short order. The Timurids settled 2 cities right in the Hun's face, with one more seemingly on the way, just as Attila is constructing his horse archer blanket of doom. RIP. Sweden moves to settle some of the prime land in northern Finland, which Urho left untouched. Meanwhile, the war of the regional cuisines has gone rather stale, with both sides trying in vain to win with their famously incompetent settler brigades. Still no sign of German troops in the vicinity. England is prepared for a war with France, but who will strike first? Given the ever-swelling ranks of Mao's Red Army, perhaps Tibet chose the wrong time to settle in their direction. At last, Iceland reaches the fabled land of North America, and is immediately greeted awkwardly by their snowy cousins, the Inuit. But of course, there's only room for one ice fetishist in this battle royale. And now, the statistics for the end of this installment. The Mughals still lead in population, followed by Vietnam, Argentina, the Soviet Union, and Yakutia. Unsurprisingly, the Inca are in last place in population, as their food-heavy UI doesn't come along until construction. However, Mongolia, Israel, and the Zulus are all members of the Low Pop Club as well. Given that all 3 were favored going into the match, it seems like a red flag that they can't maintain a high enough population to effectively warmonger. China's military is the largest, followed by that of the Huns. Surprisingly, 3rd place is Ethiopia, a civ we've barely covered so far. They may have a major effect on the face of Africa if they end up going to war in the near future, so that's something to look out for in future installments. Indonesia is dead last, but Korea's placement in the final 5 is much more worrying, given their proximity to China and Japan. The Inuit and Sioux are tied for the most cities, followed by 9 civs tied for 2nd place. Clearly, the pressure is on. Carthage is in the last place with 2 cities, behind a pack of 3 city nations as far as the eye can see. Unless they get their head on straight, Carthage will doubtlessly be held back by their lack of early expansion. Sibir, Yakutia, Argentina, and surprisingly Carthage are tied for 1st in tech, but the others are not far behind, as even the last place civs are only 3 techs behind. The technology race will be fascinating to follow. I haven't seen this many people breathing down one another's necks since my last trip on the Toronto subway. Is the most popular religion, thanks to Israel's UA, free faith points for each social policy adopted, and their subsequent head start. And to wrap it up, here's a map of the dominant religions in each area of the globe. Tune in soon to receive more of your coveted Battle Royale updates. Just a quick note, huge thanks to TPangolin for making this series, and for allowing a mere mortal such as myself to participate in this creation.